The meeting begins. The Galactic Council had not called such an emergency meeting in over 3,000 years. The great chamber of stars was filled with powerful beings from across the galaxy. Each species had one seat at the long curved table made of crystal and starlight. The air inside was cold but heavy, like it knew something terrible was about to happen. The leaders sat in silence as the council speaker, a tall, thin alien with 6 glowing eyes, stood in the center of the room. Everyone waited for him to speak, but he did not speak at first. Instead, he played a recording. The lights dimmed. A screen appeared in the air. Static filled the sound. Then a single voice was heard, deep and full of warning. The voice said only 5 words. They have left the death world. The room exploded in noise. Creatures shouted in different languages. Some gasped. Some looked afraid. One leader, a green-scaled being with sharp teeth, slammed the table and asked if this was a joke. Another, soft and glowing like a jellyfish, floated up in fear. But no one laughed. No one smiled. The council speaker raised his hand and silence returned. He repeated the words slowly so everyone would understand. Humans have left Earth. Their world is empty. Not destroyed, not broken, just empty. Every city is quiet. Every human is gone. We do not know where they are. We only know that Earth is no longer their home. For centuries, the Galactic Council had watched Earth from afar. They had marked it as a death world. It was a planet full of danger, with wild weather, deadly animals, powerful volcanoes, and diseases that could kill in hours. And yet, humans had not only survived there, they had thrived. They had built machines that flew in the sky and sailed through space. They had fought each other in brutal wars, but kept growing stronger. No other known species had survived on such a world. That is why the Council had made a rule. Earth was not to be touched. Humans were to be observed, but never contacted. Everyone agreed. Humans were too unpredictable, too emotional, too dangerous. But now they are gone. The Council called in the team of watchers who had monitored Earth from space. A small group of scientists and drones had circled the planet for decades, always hidden. The lead observer, a short gray alien named Vec, stepped forward. He looked nervous. His hands shook as he held a small device. We lost signal 3 days ago. All human communication stopped. Satellites shut down. No more power from their cities. No movement. We sent a scout ship to check. It arrived last night. The screen changed. A video played from the scout ship. It showed empty streets, buildings, covered in plants, cars left in the middle of roads, clothes still hanging on lines. It looked like everyone had simply walked away at the same time. There were no signs of war, no damage, no bodies. Just silence. Vec continued speaking, his voice shaking more. The scout team searched the capital cities. They found messages. Not written in code, just painted on walls or left on signs. They said things like, "We are not waiting anymore, and the galaxy made us strong. And now we return the favor." The room fell silent again. One council member, from a peaceful water world, asked why the humans would leave their home if there was no threat. Another, a warrior species, asked where the humans had gone and what they wanted. Vec did not have the answers. He only had one more recording. He warned them it was the last message received from the scout ship before contact was lost. The room darkened again. The final video played. It was from the ship's captain. His face looked calm but serious. Behind him, warning lights were flashing. We found nothing on the surface, but we were not alone. Something is here. Something powerful. This is not a dead world. This is a prepared world. They knew we would come. And they left a message for us. He held up a tablet. On it was a single sentence written in perfect galactic standard. They are not here. They are coming. The video ended. Silence returned. Cold silence. The kind that made even the bravest warrior feel small. The council speaker looked around the room slowly. His voice was low and steady as he spoke. The humans have not vanished. They have begun to move. We do not know where. We do not know why. But one thing is clear. He paused, letting the weight of the moment fill the chamber. They have left their death world by choice. And nothing in this galaxy will ever be the same again. Traces of the the scout ship, floated silently above Earth. Its engines powered down its crew, watching the lifeless planet below with growing fear inside the command room. The captain stood with his eyes locked on the screen, showing wide views of cities covered in green vines. And broken windows. Not a single human was seen, no cars moved, no lights shone. The world looked peaceful, but something felt very wrong. Captain Ralvek had served in deep space for over 80 years, and had seen black holes, dying stars, and war worlds. But this silence on Earth was something different. It was not the silence of death, it was the silence of planning, as if the humans had left everything behind with a reason, not out of fear or disaster, but by choice with a goal, and that goal was still unknown. He turned to his science officer, a quiet being with silver skin and 4 arms, who was scanning the lower atmosphere for signs of life, radiation, or hidden tech. The scans came back. Clean, too clean. Every energy signal was gone completely. Not just switched off, but erased, as if someone had gone through the planet and carefully removed every sign of activity, every digital footprint, every bit of data that could say where the humans had gone. They sent drones to explore the ground level. Cities, parks, homes, and government buildings. Everything was still there, untouched but abandoned. The drones hovered through giant cities that once held millions, but now only held wind and dust. They entered schools where books were still open on desks, entered homes where meals had turned cold and dry, even entered a hospital where machines stood in perfect order, but no one was left to care for them. Drones kept recording and transmitting as the council watched from far away in their chambers, frozen in disbelief. How could billions of humans disappear without any sign of chaos? No war, no disease, no panic, nothing at all, just gone like mist in the morning sun. Then one drone found something strange inside. What looked like a government base, a dark room sealed tight, but still active. It opened the door, using standard override codes, and entered carefully. The walls were covered in writing and symbols. Strange at first glance, but soon recognizable as human letters. They were messages, hundreds of them written with paint blood, and sometimes scratched into the metal walls, phrases like "We are not trapped anymore," and "They watched us, now we watch them," and "The galaxy forgot what fear is, but we will remind them." Another wall had only one sentence, but it was repeated over and over in red ink: "We are coming home." Drone moved deeper into the facility and found a large map projected on the wall. It showed stars and planets across the galaxy. Some were marked with red circles, others with green, some with nothing at all. One red circle flashed slowly. The name of the planet appeared below in bright letters. It was not Earth. It was a council world, one known for peace, trade, and education. The drone tried to download the full map, but at that moment, the lights in the room turned red and every screen went blank. A quiet voice echoed through the walls, a voice with no anger, no fear, just calm and clear. "You should not have come." Drone shut down and contact was lost seconds later. The scout ship's sensors picked up something near the edge of the Earth's orbit, something moving fast but not sending any signals. A small dark object like a satellite, but older. Its surface was covered in armor, not metal but something else, something new. Its shape was sharp and strange, like it was built for more than travel. It came close to the scout ship, scanned it for just a moment, and then turned back toward deep space. Captain Ralvek knew this was not random. Nothing here was random. Every part of this was done for a reason. He sent one last message to the Galactic Council, describing what they had seen and heard: the empty cities, the messages, the hidden map, and the strange object that scanned them before flying away. His voice was steady, but his eyes showed the truth. He was afraid, not for himself, but for what might come next. The council received the message and sat in silence again. Some refused to believe. It said the humans were hiding underground or had died from a plague. Others knew better. They could feel it deep inside. This was not an end, this was a beginning. Something had changed, and the galaxy was not ready, far from Earth on the edge of unexplored space. A single ship flew in complete silence, its engines invisible to normal scans, its path not random, but chosen. Inside the ship, thousands of cold chambers held sleeping humans waiting for the signal to wake them. Machines took care of them, voices whispered in their ears as they slept, voices that told them soon the galaxy would know their name again, and this time no one would dare look down on the Death World. She were not lost. They were rising history of the Death World, in the heart of the Galactic Library, far away from the Council chambers. An ancient being moved slowly between towering shelves of glowing books. His long fingers brushed across the spines as he searched for one particular record, a record that had not been opened in hundreds of years. His name was Kareth, the Keeper of Histories, and he had lived through 10 council ages, watched empires rise and fall, and studied the evolution of thousands of species. But even he had never seen a file marked with such danger, such warning, such mystery, as the one he now carried in his arms. The cover of the book was sealed with metal bands and glowing runes that pulsed with soft red light. Only the council speaker could grant access, and today he had given permission. With trembling hands, Kareth entered the Hall of Knowledge and placed the book on a wide circular table around him. The council members sat waiting, their faces cold, their eyes filled with the kind of fear only truth can bring. Kareth opened the book slowly. The runes faded, the pages turned on their own, and the words began to speak, not with voice, but with memory, filling the room with images from the past, from the beginning of a world unlike any other, a world named Earth. They saw its skies filled with burning storms, its oceans crashing with waves tall as towers, its ground shaking with fire and ice, its beasts fierce, fast, and deadly. No other council world was like this, no other home world forced life to fight this hard, just to take one breath. From the moment humans were born, their battle began. The air itself tried to kill them, the animals hunted them, the diseases waited in every drop of water, and yet they survived. Not only survived, they evolved through pain, through fear, through fire. They learned to stand and run and build. The first humans lived in caves while storms tore trees from the earth. They built fires with broken hands. While wolves circled in the dark, they made weapons from stones. While hunted by beasts with teeth longer than arms, then they began to fight each other, and in doing so they became something more. They did not fear pain, they learned from it. They did not fear loss, they grew stronger from it. They turned their suffering into power. Kareth continued reading, and the room saw the rise of cities built on fault lines, the building of ships during floods, the forging of steel in the middle of war. They saw humans fall and rise again, again and again. Each time harder, each time smarter. Their history was full of chaos, yet they moved forward, always forward. They had no peace, yet they dreamed of stars. They had no safety, yet they reached for the moon. Their strength was not in unity, or peace, or wisdom, but in will and the fire that refused to die. One council member asked why humans had not been destroyed when first discovered, why they were allowed to grow, to escape their world and reach the stars. Kareth answered with simple words, because we were afraid of them from the beginning. The first council probe that entered Earth's orbit was destroyed by a missile. The second was hacked from the ground using technology built by creatures still using gasoline engines. They learned faster than expected, moved quicker than predicted. Every attempt to observe them closely failed. Every attempt to contain them ended in disaster, and so the council made its oldest and strongest rule: leave Earth alone, mark it as forbidden, and never speak to the humans. Another image appeared this time, showing the early space age of Earth. Metal ships, slow and weak but determined. Humans left their planet not for war, but for knowledge. They sent machines to the far reaches of their solar system, and beyond. They dreamed of other worlds, even when their own world was burning with war and greed and chaos. And yet they always looked up, always forward. They did not conquer the stars with peace, but with persistence. Arath turned to the final page, and there the writing changed. No longer was it the language of the Council, or even the language of Earth. It was something new, something written by human hands for alien eyes. It was a warning, but also a promise. The words read, "We survived storms, fire beasts, and each other we broke every limit of body and mind. You feared us when we were alone and broken. Now we are not alone and we are not broken anymore." Silence filled the room once again, and this time no one spoke, not even the speaker himself. Kareth closed the book and stepped back into the shadows, leaving the Council to face the truth they had feared for centuries. The humans had not escaped their death world, they had become it. They carried its fire in their blood and its hunger in their minds. And now they were out among the stars with ships they had built in silence, with minds shaped by storms and a history written in pain. And now the galaxy would have to decide, do we face them or follow them? For the first time in known memory, the Council could not agree. The invasion begins, far beyond the outer rim of the Council's protected space. The first human ship entered a peaceful system known for its floating gardens and music-filled skies. It did not announce its arrival. It did not send a message of peace or warning. It simply appeared, a silent shape against the stars, dark gray like stone with no lights and no signs of life, yet it moved with purpose and perfect control, as if it already knew every planet, every orbit, every weakness. The planet below was home to the Zalari, a gentle species who grew their buildings from living trees and shared knowledge through song. They had no weapons, no armies, no shields, because in this part of the galaxy, there was no need for fear. The Council had promised safety, and for thousands of years, they had lived in peace. But peace ended the moment that human ship released its first wave of machines. Small black pods rained down from the sky, quiet as falling snow. They did not explode or burn. Instead, they opened in silence and released strange shaped drones that moved like shadows. They flew low, scanned everything, recorded everything, and vanished into the forests. The Zalari ran and hid, not knowing what these things were, not knowing why they had come, but knowing in their hearts that nothing would ever be the same again. Back at the Council stronghold, 1,000 light years away, alarm signals flashed across every screen. The system was being invaded, not by armies, not by known forces, but by one single human ship with no warning, no demands, and no violence. Only control, absolute silent control. Warships were sent immediately, fast and armed with the most advanced weapons the Council had developed. They arrived within hours, ready to fight, ready to defend the innocent world below. But when they reached the planet, they found no battle, no destruction. The cities still stood, the trees still grew. The air was clean and the skies were quiet, except for one new signal, repeating over and over in calm human language: "This world is suitable." Confusion turned to fear, and fear turned to anger. The lead commander of the Council fleet demanded to speak with the humans, sent signal after signal, and finally received a reply. A single voice came through the speakers, deep, steady, and without emotion. The voice said, "This is not war, this is reclamation." The commander asked what they were reclaiming, what right they had to enter a Council world without permission. The voice replied, "Your permission is no longer required. We gave you time to prepare, we gave you centuries to understand, and you chose silence now. We move and nothing can stop what has already begun." Before the commander could respond, a second wave of pods fell from the sky. These were not drones, but structures, tall black towers that planted themselves into the ground like roots. They hummed with energy and began to change the air, to change the light, and to broadcast signals the Council could not decode within hours. The planet began to shift, not in destruction, but in design, as if it was being prepared for something else, something human. The Zalari watched helpless as the sky changed color, as their floating gardens bent toward the strange towers, as their songs were drowned out by the humming machines. But there was no violence. The humans never hurt a single being. They simply arrived, changed everything, and waited. The Council called for more ships, more forces, more weapons. But deep down, every leader already knew this was not a battle they could win, not because they were weak, but because they did not understand the enemy. Humans did not move for power, they moved with purpose, And purpose is harder to stop than fire. On the third day, the sky opened again, and this time, a second human ship arrived. It was larger than the first, and carried something new, a massive chamber that unfolded slowly in orbit. Inside it were not drones or machines, but chambers, thousands of chambers, and inside each one was a human sleeping in silence, waiting for something, waiting for the right time. One of the council ships intercepted a signal between the chambers. It was not a military code, it was not a command. It was a story being told to the sleeping humans, over and over, a story about Earth, about storms and monsters and fire and survival, and then about silence, about the long silence they chose to break. The story ended with these words: "We are not guests in this galaxy, we are its future." Commander of the Council fleet watched in silence as the second ship released more towers, more machines, more changes, and still not a single shot was fired, not a single scream was heard. It was not a war, it was a message, and the message was clear: we are here now, and we are not leaving. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. Reports of more human ships arriving in other systems, always quiet, always controlled, always changing, never asking, always claiming, no demands, no threats. Just presence, and presence that felt heavier than any invasion. Could the council met again, and this time no one raised their voice. No one pretended they had control, because they all knew the truth. The humans had not returned to destroy the galaxy. They had returned to shape it in their image, and the invasion had only just begun. Resistance, while the council debated and planets fell silent under the soft control of human machines, a new voice began to rise in the shadows. Far from the polished halls of politics and law, there were those who refused to believe that nothing could be done. They were not leaders or generals or diplomats. They were survivors, fighters, and thinkers from many species. Small groups hidden in asteroid belts, deep oceans, and burned-out moons, where the machines had not yet come. They called themselves the Last Flame, and they burned with a single thought: we must resist. The group began as a whisper, a broken message sent from a refugee ship that escaped just before the sky turned black. And the drones arrived as scientists from a mining world, a pilot from a lost colony, and a warrior whose planet had already changed. They met in silence and moved in secret, building old tech, fixing forgotten ships, sharing what little they knew about the humans and their silent invasion. And every day they grew stronger, because every day another world fell without a fight, and every day more people realized the council could no longer protect them. In a cold metal base hidden inside a dead moon, they planned their first move. They had found a pattern in the human towers, a rhythm in the way the machines spread and changed the land. Something in the signal was always the same, as if the machines were all following one core command. They believed if they could break that pattern or corrupt it, they might slow the humans down, maybe even stop them, at least long enough to understand what was really happening. They chose their target carefully, a small system where only one human ship had landed, and where the towers were still young. Their plan was simple: hit fast, hit hard, grab data, and run. They had no illusions of victory, only a hope for time. They used old warships covered in space junk to hide from scans. They moved like ghosts through the dark, and when they reached the planet, they did not wait. They dropped to the surface like falling stars. The Varg. First thing they saw was the silence, no alarms, no weapons, just the towers humming quietly, and the animals walking calmly between the growing machines. The humans had not built walls or guards. They had not expected resistance. The Last Flame took their chance. They planted explosive charges, hacked into tower ports, and copied every byte of code they could find. They were fast and focused, and for the first time since the invasion, something went wrong in the human system. The humming stopped, the lights flickered, the towers paused. But then something happened that no one expected. From the ground beneath the towers, a door opened, and a machine stepped out. It was not a drone, not a weapon. It was shaped like a person, tall, silent, made of dark metal and glowing lines. Its face was smooth and featureless, yet somehow full of purpose. It did not attack, it only watched, and then it spoke. You have taken data that does not belong to you. You are not authorized to resist. Please return what you have. Stolen, the leader of the mission, a pilot with fire in her heart and scars across her skin, raised her weapon and answered, "We are not yours to authorize. We will not return anything. You took our homes. We will take our future." Machine did not move, did not reply, but within seconds, the towers reactivated stronger. Faster, like they had learned from the attack. The ground shifted. The air grew heavy, and more machines began to rise, not with anger, not with hate, but with focus, pure focus. The resistance ran with everything they had, barely escaping with the stolen data as the machines rebuilt everything they had touched back. At the hidden base, they studied the code, and what they found changed everything, because inside the towers was not just design, not just control. There was memory, human memory, thoughts, feelings, dreams, recorded and copied into the machines like pieces of a mind spread across the stars. The towers were not just tools. They were extensions of the people still sleeping in the ships. Above, they were seeds of a new world grown from the old pain of Earth, and worse than that, the code spoke of more ships. Thousands waiting in silence, waiting to awaken and finish what had been started. The resistance knew then this was no simple takeover. This was transformation. The galaxy was being rewritten from the soil up, and the humans were not just invaders. They were architects. Still, they did not give up. The last flame had seen the machines bleed, and now they would make them bleed again. They sent messages to others, to rebels hiding in forgotten places, to anyone who still had fire in their hearts. And slowly across the galaxy, sparks began to glow, small, bright, angry sparks, ready to rise, ready to fight, because even in the coldest night, a single flame can grow, and the humans, though strong, had not yet seen what true resistance looked like, and they were about to find out. The truth revealed. The stars were quiet, the machines were awake, the humans were rising, and across the galaxy, entire worlds had already changed into something new, something shaped by minds that once belonged to a planet called Earth. And though the Galactic Council still existed, it now sat in fear, not in power, watching as its laws and promises turned to dust under the weight of a species it had tried to avoid for centuries. But in the hidden corners of space, where the light of the towers had not yet reached, the last flame still burned stronger than ever. After each mission, after each escape, more joined their fight. Rebels, outcast, scientists, even some council officers who had lost their faith in the old ways, and from the data they had stolen, they began to see not just how the machines worked, but why they were made, what they truly were, and what the humans had planned. All along inside the stolen code was a story, not one told with words, but with memory, thousands of memories layered into the systems. The machines were not just drones, they were carriers of identity, fragments of people who had chosen to leave their bodies behind to become something more. Every tower planted on a world carried the thoughts of human minds, minds filled with fire, pain, ambition, hope, and most of all, the will to survive at any cost. And then came the signal, the one they had been fearing and waiting for, the one message that came not from a drone or a tower, but from a human voice, a real voice, clear and alive and full of purpose. It was broadcast across every open channel in every system touched by the machines, and even in those still untouched, it reached the hearts of all beings who listened, and it said, "We did not leave Earth because we were dying. We left because we were ready. Earth was our test, our forge, our cage, and our teacher. We learned to survive there in ways no other species ever had, and we waited until we could do more than survive. We waited until we could build, until we could change the stars, like we changed the fire. And now we are not coming to take from you, we are coming to offer you the truth, that this galaxy was never safe, the truth that the Council promised. Peace through control, and silence through fear, and we will not live by that design. We will build something stronger, something freer, and we welcome those who have the strength to join us." The message ended, and with it the truth was finally clear. The humans had never wanted war, they had never cared for power, they wanted evolution. They wanted to become something beyond what Earth had shaped them to be, and they wanted others to have the same chance, but they would not wait for permission. They would not ask for peace, they would simply offer transformation, and let the galaxy choose what it truly wanted to be. Many worlds resisted, many more surrendered. But some did something unexpected. They listened. They saw the machines not as invaders, but as gifts, and slowly a new alliance began to form, not under the council, not under fear, but under change, beings from across the stars, who were tired of being small, who were tired of being told what they could be, stood beside the humans not as servants but as equals, and they called themselves the second flame. The last flame did not disappear. Instead they changed, they split. Some continued to fight to defend the free systems from being changed too fast. Others chose to speak with the humans, to learn from the towers, to understand the minds behind the machines. And what they found was not cruelty, it was pain, old pain, deep pain, the pain of a species born from chaos and given no guide but their own will to live in time. Even the council could not hold itself together. Some members joined the humans, others went silent, and a few vanished into the far dark corners of the galaxy, hoping to wait out the storm. But the storm was not one of fire, it was one of ideas, and no corner was far enough to escape what was coming. Years passed and the galaxy looked different. Cities grew from living metal, air sang with human music, stars were mapped in new ways, and old fears began to fade. The humans had not destroyed the galaxy, they had remade it piece by piece, not perfect, not gentle, but alive, more alive than it had ever been before. And on one small green world, far from the first towers, a group of children stood beneath a bright sky and listened to a story told by a human elder, his voice soft and steady as he spoke of a world long gone called Earth, where storms screamed and fire fell, and people learned to laugh in the dark and fight without hope, not because they loved war, but because they could not give up. And now because of them the stars no longer belonged to fear. The children asked what it all meant, what it all was for, and the old man smiled and answered, it means we are home everywhere. And with that the story ended, but the journey continued, because in the hearts of the Deathworlders, and in all those who walked beside them, the fire still burned, not to destroy, not to conquer, but to build a galaxy where survival was no longer the end, but only the beginning.